That one hike altered my brain in how I thought about being outside, having my own adventure goal to foster a love of nature and self-regulation and all the reasons why I love being outside with my kids. But to challenge myself physically with while being a working mom with small kids.
Welcome. This is Lauren Stites, and you are listening to Her Side of the Trail. This episode will be speaking with Lydia Blanchard from My Adventure Gang. Lydia is an avid hiker who runs women's retreats all over the world, including upcoming retreats to Slovenia, Morocco, and Patagonia. She also recently just completed a 5-month cross-country tour, so we'll get into that for a little bit too. Welcome, Lydia. Thank you so much for joining me today. The first thing I want to say is that I was looking through your Instagram again last night, and you are such an inspiration. I just love looking at all of the wild and crazy places that you've been hiking, so thank you for all of the inspiration.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know you're in the U.S. Where are you located?
I live in Lowell, Massachusetts, so it's
Oh, okay.
northeast of Boston, or just north of Boston.
So do you do a lot of hiking up in like the Berkshires and up in New Hampshire and Maine and everything? Can you get there easily?
I kind of love where we live because we're so close to so many great places. We do not visit the Berkshires that much, although we probably should, but I do spend a lot of time hiking in the White Mountains, New Hampshire.
Oh, wow. I would love to get up there. That's on my bucket list. I was actually maybe hoping to get up there this summer, so we'll see. We'll see. If I do,
Oh,
I'll reach
great.
out to you and get recommendations.
Yes.
The main reason I wanted to talk to you today was because I love what you're doing with the women's adventure hikes that you have organized, and I just wanted to get to know a little bit more about that. When did you start doing these hikes?
To go way back in, I want to say it was the late fall of 2019, I was following someone on Instagram who did a group hike with a bunch of adventure moms in New Hampshire. And I did not participate in that, but it was through her posting about that hike that I found out about an Adventure Mamas, a regional Facebook group about moms hiking together. And I joined that group and committed myself to find other women with young children who were getting out on their own and hiking and following their own, adventure pursuits. And I did my first hike with them in the winter in the White Mountains in
Oh my goodness.
February of 2020. And
How did the kids handle that?
the kids, so it was without kids.
Oh, okay,
And
good.
yeah, no, it was the first time I'd hiked without my kids and done a challenging hike, and the first like winter hike, like first time I've hiked without my kids since
Just
becoming a
jump
mom.
right in there.
Just
Just
jumped
dive right
full
in.
force right in. And it was the most incredible, like life-changing experience. Just yeah,
I can only imagine.
that one hike altered my brain in how I thought about being outside, having my own adventure goals, like not just hiking with my children, not just being outside with my children to foster a love of nature and self-regulation and, all the reasons why I love being outside with my kids.
Yeah.
But to challenge myself, like physically, to challenge myself to have goals while being a working mom with small kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to find yourself, and you
Yeah.
found yourself in the woods.
And I found myself in the woods, and I hiked, I think it was like 6 other women, and they talked about running marathons, and they talked about, a couple of them were section hiking the Appalachian Trail with like 3 of their girlfriends over years. They spent like 1 week to backpack sections of the Appalachian Trail like every summer for
Incredible.
5 or 6 years. I'm like, this is so one, and I feel like that one hike that I found through this one Facebook group that I found through someone on Instagram, like gave me a vision for what I could do for myself. And I fell in love with winter hiking. I'd never really done winter hiking before.
I
And
love winter hiking.
yeah, and I found out about that New Hampshire, the White Mountains have 48 peaks that are over 4,000 feet high, which doesn't sound like a lot if you're from The West.
From out west, yes. But out here on the East Coast, that's tall.
That's tall.
That's pretty high.
And it also discounts how rugged the trail conditions are.
Yes, because you're going straight up the mountain
There's
too.
no such thing as a switchback in New England.
They weren't invented
No.
over here.
No,
They were only invented for the West Coast trails.
It's straight up like granite rock scrambles.
Which sounds so challenging, but also it just sounds so fun. Like, I want to do that.
It's
Like,
so
I know
fun.
I would hate myself in the moment. Like, why am I doing this? But
what I'm
then when you
thinking.
finish it, yeah, when you finish, you're like,
Yeah.
yes, I did this.
Yes, exactly. So I think it was on that hike that I found out there were 48 of these 4,000 footers in the White Mountains of New Hampshire,
Okay.
and that it was a pretty common challenge for people to try and hike all 48 of them. And I like tucked that away in the back of my brain and then I think I realized later that summer that I'd already hiked like 6 or 7 of them in
That's
2020.
good.
So I was like,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to like try and hike all of these peaks.
That's awesome. So wait, so now to date, how many have you done?
So I hiked all 48 by the summer of 2023.
That is incredible. Congratulations on that. Do you get a medal? Did they send you something for that?
You can apply for a patch. So the Appalachian Mountain Club, who manages the list and whatever, you can send in your dates and they ask for a personal statement about your experience hiking.
Gotcha.
And you
Okay.
can apply for a patch. I have yet to actually do that, so I don't know if it's official.
Good. You've earned it.
But I still did it. So you asked me a question about how the retreats, these like hiking retreats started. So I went way back even before that, but I feel like my experience of like coming back to hiking as an adult was so directly tied to other women and the communal experience that happens when we get a bunch of people on a trail and it's like walking meditation and you're a little bit out of your comfort zone and just that shared camaraderie, that experience together.
The challenge that you're all doing together, yeah.
It felt they're so fundamentally tied for me. That it just kind of felt like a natural extension of the things that I love. So I think I did my first back in 2022. I hosted one backpacking trip in the White Mountains that was a couple nights, and then one like hiking focused long weekend in the White Mountains for women.
How many women did you have initially come with you? How many did you have in your group?
The backpacking trip I can't remember, 4 or 5. 4.
That's a nice size, yeah.
It was really great, and it felt so intimate and special. And all the 4 women who were on that trip, 3 of them I'd never met before that experience. They all still feel like close personal friends.
That's awesome.
And the long weekend that was focused around hiking, but staying in, a house, not backpacking.
A little bit more casual, a little more glamping,
7 people
yeah.
who participated.
That's more my style, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I've done one backpacking trip ever in my life with my mother when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and it rained, but we still had fun. And she says she still talks about how I was like, well, it was an experience, but I'm like, yeah, it was an experience that I'm not sure I'll ever repeat, but we'll see. Yeah. Maybe I can get out there one day. Yeah. Let's get back to you and the women's adventures. So you did the 2.
Uh-huh. And then there was I just had a long pause that, life shifted and it wasn't my focus. But I have come back to trying to organize more women's adventurous trips, somewhat focused around hiking and some focused just around travel and experiencing new places together. So in February, the first of this recent iteration of trips that I've launched happened in Nicaragua. So late February, I spent 5 nights in Nicaragua with 8 other women, so 9 people, including myself. And it was just magical. They're
Incredible.
no
I
hiking,
can't even
but it
imagine.
was the most perfect.
No hiking.
No hiking on this one.
Gotcha.
We had plans to hike on a big volcano, but the volcano was too active, so the park was closed and we pivoted.
So, where are some of the trips that you have upcoming? Because I know you have a few scheduled for this year and I think next year too, right?
Yeah, so um, I have a trip on the books in late August to Slovenia with, yeah, I know, kind of off the beaten path, but the Julian Alps of Slovenia are similar to the Swiss Alps or the Italian Dolomites, but without the price tag or the crowds. And it is a nice intermediate or like mid-range hiking experience because you hike hut to hut. So it's kind of like backpacking, but without the tents and sleeping bags, and staying in mountain huts that have real beds and meals and wine up in the
That's
mountains.
so nice. So, is this organized then through like a tour in Slovenia, or did you organize all this?
I organized it and found a local guiding company to help with the hiking portion. So for this trip, we have a combination of hotels and hut stays.
That
So
sounds amazing.
some nights in hotels in the front end, and then exploring other parts of Slovenia in hotels after that
That
experience.
sounds so
Yeah.
incredible.
And then I have organized a hiking long weekend in the White Mountains. So hotels, day hikes, lots of day hikes, and nicer, as my husband calls them, roofed accommodations.
I like that roofed accommodations. That's awesome. How many women do you expect to be on each trip with you for these?
So most of them I'm trying to keep nice and small, around the like 8 to 10
Okay.
people mark. And then I have a not hiking related trip planned to Morocco in early November. Yeah, no hiking or minimal
Minimal.
walking, lots of walking, but
Lots of walking.
not hiking or backpacking. Yeah, nice accommodations, air conditioned vans, nice little tour of Morocco. And I'm so excited about that. And then in January of 2026, I just launched a hiking focused trip to Patagonia
Oh, that would be really
for
fun.
early
Now, is
January.
that gonna be a little bit is that gonna be backpacking, or is that also gonna be kind of like a
So
hut-to-hut experience
roofed
or
accommodations,
roofed accommodations? Yeah.
no backpacking, but lots of hiking, and good outdoor time. But yeah, there are a couple larger, like longer, slightly more challenging day hikes. I hate to say the word challenging with Patagonia because then I think of like mountaineering or ice climbing. It's definitely not that. It's a just longer day hikes. Yeah.
How far would you say the hikes are? Are they like 10-mile
Yeah,
hikes?
like
Are they
12. I think they're like 12. There are a couple
okay.
12-mile hikes and then a few much shorter hikes, like 3 to 5 miles.
Oh, that's not bad. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone wanted to sign up for these hikes, where would they do that?
I have a link in my bio on Instagram, and
Uh-huh.
I have a website, myadventuregang.com.
Let's go back to hiking with the kids, though. So you just did last summer, you did a big cross country tour with the kids. Am I correct?
Yes, we lived out of our travel trailer for about 5 months.
That sounds incredible. So did you start in Mass and then make your way? Where'd you stop along the way? Anywhere fun? Over those 5 months? List them all.
How long is this podcast? Um,
Give me
yeah.
the highlights, like the best places that you stopped.
We started in Massachusetts and we took about 2 weeks to drive all the way across to Seattle, Washington, where we met up with all of my in laws for a family vacation, which had been on the books for like a year and a half. And then we spent like 3 weeks in Washington, and then we spent about a month in Oregon and went through Idaho for about a week. And then we spent like 3-ish weeks camping around Glacier National Park,
Oh,
then drove north into Canada and we stopped at Waterton Lakes National Park, which might be the most underrated place we've ever
I've
visited.
I've never even heard of it.
I know it is the Canadian side of Glacier National Park. So Even if you
So it's
look,
gorgeous.
it's gorgeous. And there were like no crowds. Like we went from Glacier National Park that was so busy to Waterton Lakes where we rolled up without a campground reservation and were able to stay for 3 nights, like on a little lakefront site, having shown up, day of. No people, super accessible, looks very similar to Glacier National Park. We saw some of the same animals. Like it shares a border, it shares a boundary with Glacier National Park. So all of the animals just walk back and forth. Same bears you're going to see in Glacier, but no crowd. And then we spent about a week in Banff National Park and crisscrossed between California and Nevada a bunch and visited a whole bunch of national parks in California, and then ended up staying near Vegas for a little bit and then made our way back home to New England.
Okay, I might be asking you a very tough question because it might be like asking like which one's your favorite child. But if you had to tell, if someone was like, I only can go to one place, this year. So they're like, okay, I want to see some waterfalls, I want to see animals, and I want hikes that are moderately challenging.
I mean,
Where would you send them?
so I don't know. I think Glacier National Park was probably our favorite spot. Although,
That's like a top-rated park too.
yeah, it was very busy, and so there's certainly challenges to visiting a national park that's busy, that has their ticketed entry points.
The time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Timed
you got
entries.
to, sometimes you got to get in the lottery for these places.
Yeah. So we lucked out so much with our stay there because I booked a last minute reservation, woke up super early to log on to recreation.gov, like right at the moment.
Yeah, when they release everything.
Certain like last minute sites were released. And I just managed to find a campground spot that had like 9 days of availability. And I got this spot like 3 or 4 days before we showed up. And then we camped on the eastern side of the park, near the St. Mary's entrance, where we camped for like 5 days. And again, I showed up there. I made those reservations like a day before arriving. And I think it's because we were there in September,
Like go kind of in the off season,
Yeah.
right? You might be able to get may have better success.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep you too long. I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate you being here with me. But I want to ask, if you could only do one kind of hike for the rest of your life, would it be hikes to waterfalls or would it be hikes to views?
Ooh.
I know. That's a tough one, I think.
Well, so the White Mountains have a lot of view hikes that have running water all over the trail.
See, that's like how you can get around it, right?
Some of that is because the trails are just, you're like hiking through the river as the melt comes down. So wear some good waterproof hiking boots. I don't know. I think I might hike to views. That's a tough one.
Thank you again. I really appreciate your time. It was so fun talking to you. Where can anyone find you on social media?
My Adventure
website.
Gang.
My Adventure Gang.
Yeah, My Adventure Gang on Instagram, and that's my website too. And if you want to email me, it's Lydia at My Adventure Gang.
So thank you so much for your time, and happy exploring, happy adventuring.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Her Side of the Trail. There are more hiker stories to hear, so please follow along to hear them as soon as they come out. And if you like this episode, please share it with your friends or on social media. Her Side of the Trail is hosted and produced by me, Lauren Stites. I can't wait to share another hiker story with you next episode.